Hey everybody, welcome to Bound to Truth. I am your host, Christopher J. Lopez. Jonathan Hershey cannot be here today because he's got too many freaking kids. And he's taking care of some family engagements and so forth. But hey, that's totally fine. Definitely want to apologize. We were going to do a part two with Skratch, but of course there were some things that happened with the hurricane that came out. I'm sure you're all aware of this last week. Thank God he's okay and so forth. And we definitely have him back on the show today. But before we get into it, again, how can you reach us? Comments, questions, concerns, insults. You want to buy me some dinner, take me out. boundtotruth34 at gmail.com. Also on Facebook, Bound to Truth, X, Spotify, Apple, now on Amazon Audible, and Buzzsprouts and a few other platforms as well. Please hit the subscribe button. The platform is yours. The more subscribers out there, the more people know about what's going on. I could definitely have a lot more guests on, just like Skratch himself, that's going to be on talking today. So definitely really appreciate everybody's support. Really appreciate everybody's love of the show. It means a lot, warms my heart. Really love you all. And so today, this is going to be a part two series because Skratch has a lot to talk about. I know towards the end we had some, I call internet interference. I call it government interference because that's where mine goes. Some internet interference that was happening and so forth. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick off from our last conversation. But before I go and do that, I just want to say, Skratch, I'm glad you're alive, man. How are you doing? You're not flooded out. You're okay. I know you had some power outage lost, but yeah, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm dandy like candy, actually. Actually in Washington on what, October 6th? October 6th, it's actually a nice sunny day, believe it or not. Had a nice motorcycle ride in Seattle yesterday, went down to Pike's Market, discovered there's more levels of Pike's Market, and just watched, observed, took it in, and didn't get shanked. So it was good.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. So basically to come well, I want to jump back into this.
Hmm.
So towards the episode, I'm gonna kind of recap a little bit, and I know I'm gonna miss a lot of things because you have a lot to say and
Yeah.
can't hear more. So talking about the experience with the light in the room, talked about how the cancer with you and your family that happened in a way that's kind of interesting with all that's going on.
Hmm.
I know your dad talked about waking up to like children that are 3 foot tall, and also talk about how your dad doesn't joke around about that stuff, right? He's a very serious man. He doesn't just go and just say things just randomly. He's very uh very much to the point and factual. And then
Yes.
also that you saw about 7 or 8 different ships, but feels like the military was involved because of military um uh planes that were kind of like uh like I wouldn't say guiding the ships, but kind of like being a side piece to it, like 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 kind of flying with them. And you felt like there was,
Escorting.
yeah, escorted. Thank you. That's a great word. That's the word I was looking for. And you talked about how it was in Destin, Florida, right? And
Hmm.
did I say the term right? Like how, about we were talking about Destin, Florida, if I said that right. And that's where we kind of left it off. And from that summary, again, kind of a weak summary, because you have a lot to talk about. I want to pick up from that area or where you want to continue. So, man, go for it. Go ahead. Let's talk. Let's chat it up, buddy.
Okay. Well, I mean, th- when you tell the truth, you don't have to remember the lie. So I could give you the whole rundown real quick, exactly what I saw that night.
Go for it.
Um,
Go ahead. Go ahead and feel free to do so to kind of summarize it again. Go for it.
yeah, somebody might have not have seen the first one, but basically, it's like I said, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember the lie. And there, after we had our conversation, I've been walking around now for 2 weeks thinking about I should have mentioned this because this would have been to somebody, it will probably clarify that I'm telling the truth about this. Okay. But I'll get back into it. Um, it was either the late 80s or the early 90s. I know the Gulf War hadn't started quite yet. That was a long time ago for a lot of people, but um, it was somewhere right around 1989, 1990 that this occurred. Uh, I was used to going over to buddies' houses and we'd drink and we'd have a bonfire and, you know, basically just talk about weird stuff, exactly like what we're talking about now. Same kind of thing, but just a different atmosphere. It was a different time, a totally different time. Cell phones did not exist. The internet wasn't something that was very, you basically had to have a business in order to have access to something that was similar to the internet. It was kind of like texting with computers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have that much technology, but that was about it.
All I can
And the
tell you is this.
phone,
All I can tell you is this. Back in the '80s, there was some great shows like Remington Steele, Matlock. I'm happy those were around, but
yeah,
yeah.
I wasn't much into watching television now. That just wasn't my sitting and watching TV. No, watching movies. Yes, we had VCR tapes, big bulky tapes that you could watch. We
Ah,
had that.
the eight tracks of shows, man.
Kind of, yeah, kind of. So basically, I'll just start off from that, and we'll kind of get into what I meant to tell you the last time we spoke. Uh, it was a late night. It was probably around 11 o'clock, which was early for me because I would be out till 1, 2 in the morning, sometimes 3. Okay, just hanging out with buddies, just having fun, just enjoying life. Really, it was casual. It was easy going kind of time. But I decided that I wanted to go home. I was tired. My buddy was tired. I really wanted to kind of just draw a little bit. And so I took out a notepad and I started drawing a big orange sun with colored pencils. And I put on my headphones and I was listening to a tape by John Seary, and it's called "And the Stars Go With You." It's like a meditation tape. At that time, it was something I would listen to almost every night. It would help me sleep.
Mhm.
Just put me in it was just atmospheric kind of music. So I put my headphones on, I reach over to my left and I turn off the light. I lay my head back, and suddenly a brilliant blue light flooded the room.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking, oh, well, something's going on with the propane tank that we used to heat the house with, which was outside of my bedroom.
Now, let me pause you for a second. So you've seen this light in the room. Was this the same kind of light you saw when you were younger?
This is that light I'm talking about. I've
Oh,
never
okay,
seen it.
gotcha. Sorry about
Yeah,
that. Go ahead. Yeah, go
it
ahead.
was kind of like a laser. If you can imagine a blue laser beam,
Yep.
it would have been that color of light. It would have been that tone and color. The whole thing would have been like that.
And how old were you again at the time?
I was probably 20, 21, 22,
Okay. All right, go for it.
somewhere in there. I'm 58 now. So you can, this is all from memory.
Yep.
The light flooded the room, and I reached over. Well, let me back up. Okay. We had a portable telephone. We had two types in the house. One that was a line telephone that was connected directly into the wall, into the phone circuit.
Right.
And then we had another phone that was it was called a cordless phone.
Right. The antenna on top, you kind of pick it up.
You had to pull the antenna out and you
Yep.
could talk within a certain 20, 30, 40 feet
Right.
of that little modular.
Mm-hmm.
That little modular was stationed in the kitchen at the other end of the house. First, it gave like a weird half ring.
Mm-hmm.
And then the blue light came through the window, because that's why I was reaching over. I remember now, that's why I was reaching over, was to grab the landline, which was next to my bed, before it rang again.
Right.
But it didn't give it was like a pulse or a chirp. This phone made it sound like a pulse, like a chirping sound, but it wasn't the full chirp. It was like a half of it a chirp,
Right. I know
which was
exactly.
kind of strange.
Right. It's like someone's calling in and hung up right away. Like, but my bad. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So that's why I was reaching over, wasn't to turn the light on, but basically to answer the phone before it woke up my parents. Well, it gave a half chirp and then a low bass hum that I didn't notice at first. Okay. But the blue light came through my window, which was immediately to my left.
Right.
And what ran through my brain was the propane tank outside was about to blow up, or something was going on with the electrical, because I had the main circuit all came through my bedroom right above my head, just to the left of my head, above my bed.
Right.
So the low bass hum, the chirp happened again. And I'm like, this is weird. I'm about to get out of bed, but the chirp happened again, and the blue light came back through the bedroom, through the window. And it looked, like I said, like a laser beam. And to describe it as being paralyzed, that would be close to it. You're just frozen in place. Not like sleep paralysis, because I wasn't asleep.
So let me ask you a couple of questions then. Sorry to
Sure.
interrupt. Do you think that the interference of the phone had something to do with that light or something coming down, whatever that could be, craft or whatever you want to call it, interfering with the tech that we have here? And then also, when it comes to that paralysis, you say it's not the sleep paralysis. Do you think it was something in either internal fear or just like on the unknown, or something that you think was something device wise or energy wise holding you down, uh, not able to move?
For me, it was like being a rabbit or a deer caught in headlights.
Okay.
It wasn't a physical presence holding me down. I was able to move. I was able to move my head. If it had been holding me down, I wouldn't have been able to move my head. I wouldn't have been able to focus my eyes. I wouldn't have been able to reach over my body trying to grab the phone that was ringing.
Okay.
That wasn't ringing. My phone never rang. The landline never rang. Do I think it had something to do with the pulse? Yeah, absolutely. Because this, like I said, it was a cordless phone. And a cordless phone is much like a cell phone,
Right.
but the tower and all of it's right there in the house.
Right.
It was enough of a surge to where that it did affect it because of the nature of that type of phone.
So are you saying that the cordless phone rang and not the landline phone? Or
Yeah,
oh, okay, interesting. Okay. So it sounds like there was some type of, how you say it, wavelengths that are kind of affecting that,
yeah,
because you got something that's hardwired. That's one thing, right? We've heard about the internet before it came out. We had landlines with like DSL cables and all that stuff, which are hardwired compared to something that's Wi-Fi. So it definitely had some, sounds like an outside force interfering with that phone particularly.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Because it was a pulse,
Okay.
and that's what the low bass hum felt like. I mean, the low bass hum literally rattled all the bones of my body. But that wasn't when the phone was doing what it was doing.
Right.
The blue light and the pulse, the vibrating of my bones, that was the low bass hum. That was happening when the light was surging into the room,
Gotcha.
when the light was coming into the room.
Okay. So after that happened, just again, I know we're kind of telling the story from the prior. I know you got up and you're getting your folks up, trying to wake them up. What's going on? You said you didn't see any beings, but you saw this light, right? That was bending without any mirrors or anything like that. It was just like a bending light by its own will. I mean, I'm calling it by its own will, by whatever entity's behind it. What happened after those things that happened when you wake your folks up? I know you talked about a shotgun. Um, did you see a craft? Did you see any beings? Did what was that the experience after that? Or was there any missing time? That may I thought as well.
If there was missing time, I didn't have a clock in my bedroom. I didn't have an alarm clock. I didn't need alarm clocks because I lived on my time.
Right.
Okay,
You naturally
not like
wake up at like a consistent level, and yeah.
I didn't have to do that at all. I made my own. I had a job where I would go in when I felt like going in, and I'd
Mhm.
leave when I felt like leaving.
Mhm.
I was a cartoonist at that time, so I basically, whenever he gets here, he gets here. If
Gotcha.
I if I walked in drunk, well, he's drunk today. They wouldn't say nothing to me. They just basically, okay, come when you want to come, leave when you want to leave. It was a great life.
Right.
All right,
Mr. Scratch living on his own beat of the drum, baby.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that. I mean,
Well, who wouldn't?
it was a rare opportunity
Yeah.
for me in my time
Right.
to do that. But the one thing I wanted to mention,
Hmm.
because I'm seeing the blue light come in probably 8 to 10 foot into the room, just past my bed, the foot of my bed,
Hmm.
and it would bend back on itself. The one thing I wanted to mention I didn't quite get to last time is that while I was looking at this light go out and then bend and come back over my body, I forgot to mention that I saw sunbeams, little tiny dust particles floating in the air.
Really?
I forgot to mention that last time. I'm sorry. I
No, no,
apologize.
no, 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 no. It's okay. Well, it's okay. I mean, this is why we're doing a second parter and multiple parters if need to be, because I mean, we're going down a memory machine, not a time machine, right? So
Right.
we're going and trying to recap those things. With those sunbeam lights, were they orb looking or what?
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
no, it was like I'm in a room right now and the sun is coming through the window.
Yep.
And if I sat with my back to the sun, I would still be able to see little particles of dust floating in the air. Just all,
Yep. Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep. Yeah.
that was what I was seeing, but it was illuminated as blue. They were being illuminated by the light.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's what I'm kind of trying to get at. That's how bright this light was. It was just like a laser beam that went from the floor to the ceiling through a window. It entered a window and it seemed to just grow from the very floor to the ceiling. It wasn't like a prism. You know how a prism will come and then it gets wider.
Yep.
Well, this light came almost like it came right through the wall, straight in, went 8 or 10 foot past, and it bended on itself. It bended
it
on
it
itself.
it like seeped through the particles itself, like because we all when people talk about, we're all resonating frequency, right? We
Right.
all resonate frequency. It sounds like this beam is so intelligent, or whoever's behind it, that was able to go through those spaces of frequency, because frequency, when we're told, is that like there's high frequency and there's very low frequency, and low frequency is supposedly what keeps matter together. And it sounds
Yes.
like that this was able to find the seams to collaborate and do what it needed to do in that moment.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, it felt alive. The light felt like it was a living thing.
Wow.
If you can describe that, I mean, that's the way it felt like it moved.
Well, it sounds like there's an intelligence to it, right?
Yeah, there was something intelligent about it. It was doing something. The light being intelligent, hard to imagine. Okay, but it was like it was looking for something. It was looking for something. I don't know if it was looking for me or what, but it was looking for something. It was like if you can imagine electricity being alive, being a living thing, that's what it kind of felt like. It just felt
Wow.
alive.
Wow. Interesting. Well, let me ask you this before we kind of move on from that part of the conversation, or we can talk more if you want to. Of course, like I said, it's your platform. Was anything prior that happened before this experience happened, that like anything in the woods, anything on the property, that was kind of odd, weird, something that maybe lurking around before this whole experience that happened?
No, I mean I've had weird, strange, odd, bizarre experiences my whole life there.
Well, yeah. Well, the reason I was asking that particularly is because if
Mhm.
I'm searching for something, I'm thinking maybe there was something that was left behind that they're looking for, right? Maybe they visited and there's something they're looking for, maybe a being, maybe something else. I mean, I'm speculating. I was just curious. That's why I wanted to ask that question. If there's
Well,
anything
I'm glad you did.
recently prior.
Right. There was nothing to there was nothing to cue me in or clue me in that this was going to happen in any way. That whole little area, as like I told you last time, I'd had time slips there.
Right.
I'd experienced some other things, other friends that experienced some things. Uh, Immediately comes to mind after this occurred. Okay, I had a buddy who was homeless. He was living in his car.
Mm.
I said, well, you can come stay with my parents. We have a large house. We have enough room. You can shower there. You can eat there.
Plenty
You
of
can live.
property, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I said you don't have to sleep in your car. And he we were having a great time. Just he did his thing. I did my thing. I told him about this. I told him about the experience, and he had no reason to not believe me. But he kind of also wanted to come see if he would have some kind of experience like that himself.
Well, who wouldn't, right? Like, take me to the show.
Yeah,
Right.
well, he did have an experience,
Ah, okay.
but it was probably around, I would say 2 or 3 months after this happened.
Okay.
And we're talking to my mother, and in the kitchen. You know, she's asking what time are we going to come back? You know, what are we going to go do? Da da da. All right, we're going to go to the movies. We're going to watch, go check out a dollar flick,
Hmm.
cinema type of thing. And she said, "Well, okay, be careful, have fun." Well, we're standing there, and all of a sudden we hear something that sounds like it crashed on the roof of the house. It shook
Hmm.
the whole house. It was like something heavy, like I would say probably 400 or 500 pounds,
Wow.
kind of heavy. It was loud.
Right.
She showed it to me, and she said, "What was that?" And I said, "Well, I'm in here. I don't know." And I looked at him, and he said, "Did you hear that?" And he said, "Yeah, I felt it." And I said, "Okay." So we go outside, and there was a full moon coming up over the horizon above the tree line. And we're talking about which car we're going to take. We're going to take my car, we're going to take his car.
Right.
And I really didn't care, but I'm like, okay, we just need to get in the car and go. And something illuminated his face because I had my back to the moon talking to him beside the cars or near the cars. And he got a look of shock on his face, like he had seen something that was terrifying. And I turned around to see what it was because I'm like, there's no clouds in the sky,
Hmm.
but it lit up his face like a lightning strike. I
Hmm.
mean, his face was already illuminated because of the moon, but then it was kind of like a lightning strike happened. And I turned around and I looked behind me and I said, well, "What did you see?" Because there's nothing there. And I turned to look at him and he's almost like, um, you could tell he was in kind of a state of shock. I said, "What did you see?" He said, "I can't really describe it, but it looked like a huge talon disappearing into a flash of light, disappearing into a portal."
Hmm.
I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Can you tell me where it was?" He said, "It was just right behind you. We had it was open space, like a field." He said, "Probably 30 or 40 feet right behind you." I saw a huge talon looking like it was disappearing into the portal.
Like it was coming through like you imagine a portal in a movie where it's coming through
Yeah,
space. Okay.
yeah,
Interesting.
like a
Okay.
like a bright light, and it just kind of sucked into it, and it was just
Wow.
a talon going into that. I didn't see it, so I can't verify it, and that's why I'm kind of
Did he say what it was doing, or was it reaching for anything particularly, or just the hand itself, this talon?
well. He said that, and what looked like the tip of a dragon's wing.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, I can't describe it more than that because that's what he told me he saw. If I saw it, I would have been able to give you a full description. I've been able to draw it
Right.
out.
Right.
You know, but
Did
that
now
would have been,
did he feel pretty shaken up what he saw? Was he pretty
yeah.
white as
Oh
a
yeah,
ghost in a way?
he was
Okay.
freaked out. We weren't. If we drank for fun,
Hmm.
and we weren't alcoholics, so he didn't say, "Oh, I need a drink now." He didn't do nothing like that.
Okay.
It was just very strange that
Hmm.
he saw it, and so we got in the car and we left.
So
There's really nothing.
let me ask you this. And I
Mhm.
think I asked this before, and forgive me if I forgot. Are
Okay.
you guys by any native land, or the property was occupied by any native land out there?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
The reason I'm asking that is because we talked about Randy, the guy with the Bigfoot and everything, for about 40 plus acres in Minnesota. He talks about, Bigfoot being these interdimensional beings. And I'm
mhm.
wondering if these things are part of that interdimensional, either the same plane or a different plane. I have no idea. Again, totally a theory, but that's interesting that there was a portal that was opened up and there was this town that was coming through, right? Because we hear about history with dragons, not just in one country. We talk about many spans of the country from both Europe all across to Asia, right? So I'm just curious, is if there's any connection there. Any thoughts on that?
Well, like I told you last time, I had a time slip. Um, Twice on that same property in that same kind of general area. I've had two time slips there, seeing things from different times. Uh, One from before I was born, and one long before my mother was born. The little teepee with the little campsite that a Native American apparently had was smoking meat behind the house. Yeah, that whole area was well known for having Native Americans.
Interesting.
Uh,
Okay.
it's for that the whole South Carolina, North Carolina, um, into parts of Georgia. Yeah, Native Americans were here a long time before the Spaniards came over. Before
Interesting.
before Christopher Columbus ever landed on these shores. Yeah, they were all over the place, and they were part of them weren't always Native American, but some of them came from the Mexican region
Right.
down where it was for them walking was a big thing, and
Right.
they branched out everywhere.
Right.
Some people were exiled, and yeah, not everybody was in a tribe.
Right.
It was rumored that where we were, some of those native people were cannibals. So you just didn't, the Mexicans knew the Mexicans, not the Mexicans now, but the Mexicans now.
Well,
They
yeah,
had,
you're talking about the indigenous
yeah,
people. Yeah.
they knew not to go there. They knew not to go to certain places, and they gave certain places names to totally avoid. To
Well,
to-
it could be like you talk about like we talk about cannibalism. I mean, Wendigo is a big part of that, right? So
yes,
Wendigo with cannibalism with people either eating somebody or there's this whole vortex of spirit that arounds that kind of creates this entity. Again, I'm not sure if it's something that's manifested by us, but somehow there's this intent that opens up these events. And I
yes,
say intent. When I say intent, is because I think intent is a very strong thing. What we put out in the world can come back to us, right? Just like if we do good things, hope, good things come back to us, right? It's all about perspective. But I think intent is such a powerful device that it can manifest things in such a supernatural way. When I say supernatural, we use the word term supernatural, people think of ghosts and demons and all this stuff. Supernatural to me is something that's outside our natural realm to understand. Like more of I kind of use that as a science term, you know?
yes. I mean, your will, your desire, what you want. If you put it out there, the universe will find a way to make it happen.
Right.
Okay, like I never really wanted all this stuff to happen to me. Not really. I was always interested. Everybody would be interested to have this kind of,
Oh, well, why do you think I'm doing this podcast? I'm interested, right? Yeah.
yeah, you kind of, but do you want it to shape the core of your being? It's, and many times, other than just what I told you so far,
Mhm.
has shaken the core of my being. It has made me, it has changed my life. And I've had to study all kinds of stuff that I never really wanted to delve into. I never wanted to really get into UFOs. I never really wanted to get into uh, other things like the skinwalkers, Wendigo, Bigfoot. I've never seen a Bigfoot, but I have no doubt that they exist. I have
Right.
zero doubt at all that they're real.
So with that being said, like you said, I didn't ask for this. I'm intrigued by it, but I didn't ask for these experiences.
Right.
Because of these experiences, would you say this is why you've dove in deep in that rabbit hole because of something I just can't let go. I want to understand what's going on because
Yes.
this affected me personally. It's affected certain relationships, and I'm just trying to have the best understanding of what I'm experiencing. Would you say,
Exactly. I've looked for people's experiences of what have you seen? I started reading ghost stories. I started reading not ghost stories like fiction, but
mm,
I'm looking for actual experiences. I
mm,
started taping. I started really getting in. Not I want to call people call them horror movies,
mhm.
but gore, violence like Friday the 13th and Freddy Krueger and that kind of crap. I
Right.
have no interest in that stuff.
They're 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 a fun horror in certain things, but I totally know what you're saying.
Okay. I mean, I would be more along the lines of The Shining. Okay. I'd be more
Yeah.
along the line, what kind of entity is coming in to do this instead of some person being just a real serial killer.
And you know what, too? Here's a great movie. I'm not sure if you heard it from John Carpenter. If you know the director John Carpenter, he's done like
Yes.
movies like They Live. There's a great movie called Children of Darkness, and it involves the Catholic Church and about the God and the anti-God. I honestly encourage you to watch the movie if you haven't seen it. Alice Cooper's in the movie, but just a small part, but that's how they promote it. If you've seen that TV show back in the day called Simon and Simon back in the 80s, before Simon came out, the guy with the one, he didn't have a mustache in the show, but he has it on this movie. I think you find that intriguing. I encourage you to watch that the next time we talk. I think that'll open your mind on certain things, how that movie was so ahead of its time when it comes to portals and interdimensions. It was
Okay.
incredible what John Carpenter did. But
I'll
anyway,
check.
so yeah, it's really, really good. Bit cheesy horror film, but the theories and the conversations regarding scientists with the Catholic Church is pretty amazing. Again, ahead of its time. That I love that movie. I still watch it to this day because I still haven't figured out everything out regards to its theories, which is pretty interesting.
I'd love to check it out.
Yeah,
John Carpenter is one of my favorite directors of all
he's,
time.
he's a great and well, also They Live, right? With Roddy Piper. And that's a
There was a lot more truth to that than what
oh,
people,
100%
a lot,
agree.
a lot more truth to it. I didn't even think about it until we were having a conversation like we're having now.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with somebody who said, "Go watch that movie again." And I said, "Okay, why?" And he said, "Because there's a lot of fact in there that they were trying to allude to,
Hmm.
but they really couldn't just come out and say, 'Hey, this is based on fact.'"
Right. And
But it's true.
yeah, and they could be whistleblowers coming out to these movie directors like Steven Spielberg, right? When it comes out
Yeah.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind, where it's like let's make this a fantastical movie, but there's some kernel of truth behind it. They Live is such a great thing behind that too. Because of how it affects society when it comes to mind control, when it comes to inspiration or influence with decisions. And the reason I go to that movie too is because I remember Bob Lazar talked about how when it comes to religion and how these beings look at us as containers. Well, he didn't say containers of what. He's like, I'm not sure what the containers are. Containers of the soul. I like to go to containers of the soul, right? There's something special about that.
Well, I got one for you on that one
Go for it, man.
a
Go for
little
it.
bit
Lay it to
later.
me.
Right now, we're kind of talking about the UFOs,
Yep.
okay? But I've got a beautiful story for you about the very word uh, container,
Mhm.
okay? Remind me to get back to just say the word French girl to me in a few moments.
Okay. Bench girl. Got
But
it.
we're kind of, my whole life has been just one big
Episode. Okay.
series of strangeness. I mean, this stuff has been strange beyond strange, beyond strange, beyond strange. I mean, I wrote a book, but I haven't really sought to publish it. Of all of the stuff that I've experienced from the time remember back when I was a small child, 4 years old, talking to a kid where I was in my front yard and where I was brought home as a baby. My mother and father, my grandfather gave the land that we have talked about so far with the portal and the time slips and the alien uh, coming in and looking through the window and stuff. That was the place I moved to when I was 4 years old. But on the last day that we were moving the final stuff out of the house, I call it in town because we had neighbors in town, right? I was in the front yard and I was talking to a kid wearing a plaid shirt, and he looked like he was dressed from the 1950s.
Hmm.
We had talked a few times. We talked a lot. You know, I'd be outside. He'd come over. It was kind of, he stayed a certain distance from me. He would be right across a creek,
Hmm.
not really a creek, but like a large ditch.
Hmm.
And we'd talk all the time. And I can remember his face to this very day. We would talk, and he'd say, "So you're leaving, huh?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're moving to the new house. I'm going to miss you." And he said, "I'm going to miss you too." Right. And I remember my dad yelling at me, "Come on, we got to go. Come to the car."
Hmm.
I remember walking away from him and looking back, and he was gone. And I'm
Hmm.
like, how could he have moved that fast? You know, because he did that. I remember basically him doing that a lot.
Uh-huh.
I get up to the car and I can still hear the echo of the man that my father was talking to, a neighbor, saying, "Who's he talking to?" My dad just kind of looked at him and said, "Let it go." I could see on his face, he's kind of just let it go. He
Yeah.
does that all the time.
Yeah. Just like, don't worry about it. Just
Right. Don't
move
worry
on.
about it.
Move
He does
on.
that
Move
all the
on.
time. But I knew that I was talking to a boy, and I knew he was dressed from like the 1950s. It was just the way his clothes didn't look 1970.
So let me ask you this. Tell me if I'm going too ahead of myself. Was that guy your dad talked to? You think it was that boy?
What's what?
You think the guy was your dad who was talking to this person? You think it was that boy?
No, no,
That would be pretty cool if it was.
no, this was a neighbor. This was a neighbor that lived next door. I don't even remember what he looks like. I just remember him being an older man, older than my father, right around my father's age, just a little bit older than him. And so it's just that kind of thing. That was basically where my first memories really kind of began. Was when I was around 4. I can't remember anything before that.
Okay.
But that was one of my first memories that I can actually say I can still play that scene in my head.
Right. Right. So let me ask you this one, to kind of jump a little forward ahead, because we talked about how the experience is not just on the property, but they've just followed you. And continuing from the lights that you saw, 7, 8 ships and so forth, what was a continuation of your experiences after that? What have you experienced since that, after that whole thing, the whole military thing? Where do you want to go with that?
Okay. All right. Since we're going to kind of keep it in groups of like this
Yeah.
is about spaceships. This is about ghosts. This is about that. Let's
And by
continue
and by
on.
and by, and by, and by the way, just let you know,
Uh,
personally, I think there's a I think it's all intertwined. And what the reason I say that is I think that there's an interdimensional piece to it.
yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
I think and then sorry to cut you off. I think it's, when people are like, well, what's I had somebody made a comment before. What is paranormal and and UFOs and Bigfoot have anything to relate to each other? And I said this, nothing, dot 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 dot, everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyways, let me cut
Everything,
you off, but go ahead.
yeah. No. You're fine. Everything is intertwined.
Right.
Okay. There's a time space continuum that we're in right now. It's just a sliver of one universe.
Mhm.
I believe that there are multiple universes. I don't believe that this is the only one. I think it's like a whole bunch of
I
bubbles.
agree.
And the interdimensional part, it can also be dimensions within that whole thing.
Right.
A lot of strange. I mean, I've had to look into quantum physics. I've had to start
Well,
trying to
and,
figure
and, and
that.
it's scientifically talked about too, and it could be both natural and technological, right?
Right.
And that's the thing, right? Like we have creatures here, we have animals here who can do things that we as humans cannot physically, right?
Yeah.
Like octopuses can blend in and they can actually taste colors. They can't see, but they can taste it and do those things. So what makes us think that these beings, both cryptids, alien, paranormal, can't do either one of those things?
Well, when I was a kid, like
Hmm.
again, going back to 4 years old,
Go for it. Yeah.
I could taste colors. It's the weirdest
Hmm.
shit. And I tried to tell my mom I can taste colors. I mean, I could look at uh, okay, I remember looking at a Three Musketeers bar.
Hmm.
It was in a white, blue, and red,
Oh
and
yeah, I know.
three little musketeer looking guys on the thing. I'd look at that and I'd say, that looks delicious.
Hmm.
I'd take the candy bar and I like the candy bar's crap. What the hell happened between the color of the wrapping and the candy bar?
Hmm.
They didn't match at all. The colors of the wrapping, I could taste that. I could literally, I don't know how to explain it, but it was a
No,
taste.
no, you can. I think it's one of those tricks where people told me if you take food coloring and put it into strawberry syrup and put black into it to look like chocolate syrup, that it
Yeah.
would taste weird because you're going by what you're expected to taste. So again, I'm not saying it's the same, but I think I'm close to a good analogy.
Well, when I discovered that, it was literally one of those talents that I said I've got to ignore my talent to
Mhm.
do that. I have to stop doing that. I was too young to realize that this is how people knew to discriminate between something that was okay for you to eat and poison.
Mhm.
Okay, I mean, I was too young to discern that, to say, okay, this is something I can do to tell you if this is going to be good for you, is this going to be bad for you? And
Mhm.
I could have even extended that very ability to
Mhm.
say, well, this could cure a disease of some sort. This could be a cure for the common cold or the flu or cancer or whatever. This will make you feel better. This might not make you feel so good. Just by ingesting it, you're taking on those atoms and subparticles
Right.
I could have done that, but I didn't know about it. My This was all brand new to me. My parents weren't. I don't think anybody on the planet would have been adept to understand. This is how you learn stuff. This is how you get places. This
Right.
is what these are tools that you're given from birth that you can use to help mankind proliferate and get better.
Right. And do you think it's been ignored because of our dependence on technology so much to decipher how to experience things compared to our own human nature as people, would you say?
Yes, yes. I mean, okay. I've always had a gift to see things coming around the bend, to
Okay.
know to know to know something that was going to happen moments before it happens.
Right.
Okay. At one time, it got so it made life boring. There were no surprises, so I basically shut it down.
Mhm.
I'm like, whatever I could do to have that gift now. Oh man, if I could see 30 seconds into my own future and know what was going on, take me to a casino, brother. Take me
Yeah.
to the tables. You
Right.
know,
All you
take
need
me
is 30
to.
seconds.
Oh, I just need 30 seconds. Craps. Give me 30 seconds on a craps table and or a roulette wheel. I would be
So,
in heaven.
so let me ask you this. Going, if we look at the past, we look at the pyramids, we look at what the Aztecs have done, we look at our native brethren. Do you think they were on top of something because of the lack of technology, because they're depending on their God-given gift of what we've been given with our talents? You think things could change into more something different than what we're dealing with today when it comes to inspiration, when it comes to connection, maybe hopefully more of a peaceful aspect. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that mankind. I've read once or heard once or something that when mankind first came into being, on the planet, we had something like 200 facilities. Like we have six senses,
Mm.
they had something in the neighborhood of 200 senses. And we've lost a lot of those senses over the years. I think the pyramids, they're all over the world. When I was in school, up until the 12th grade, I only thought there were three pyramids, and they were in Egypt. And since then, I've studied geography, I've studied a lot of different sciences and stuff. And I found that, oh, there are pyramids just in Mexico on the same continent that I exist on.
Right.
All right. I found out, oh, there's pyramids in China, there's pyramids in Europe. Okay. And many of them are
Or
mountains.
or Belgium, right?
Belgium.
We,
They're
we,
all over the world.
we've heard about the Black Pyramid in Alaska.
Alaska,
We've heard about
exactly.
we've heard about pyramids even in Antarctica,
Yeah.
right?
So, but when I was in school, nobody mentioned the first thing about the pyramids. Okay. What I learned about the pyramids was on television, a show called In Search of.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I got my knowledge. It was about
Right.
the strange and unusual, and they
Yeah.
were like, "No, you don't need to pay attention to that."
Right. Or the show Sightings, right? Remember that show
Exactly.
back in the
Well,
day?
that came later. That came much
Yeah.
later.
Right. Right.
Um,
So so would you to me, in my thought, is I think there's a lot of narrative control within our society to control our own history and our own beliefs. I look at the Smithsonian when it comes to like the giants and so forth, not to go too deep in that area, but that's just an example. When it comes to information control, do you think our government, especially their expenses, know a lot more? And I'm not talking about the regular government. I'm talking about something behind it. Like,
exactly.
what do you think? Do you think that they know something we don't? I know we have presidents that have met in Antarctica. I mean, heck, Buzz Aldrin went down to Antarctica because they need him for some project of some sort,
Right. Right.
and all that jazz. What's your thoughts on that when it comes to government knowledge in this area of phenomenon?
I do. I'm convinced that there are people who know things that will never tell. It will
Why do you
never.
think that? Why do you think that?
Why? Okay. Because because it's a schism more so than anything.
Yeah.
I think that, and because okay, like me and you are having this conversation now.
Hmm.
I can talk to you about a thousand things, that the normal person, let's say a normal person,
Mm-hmm.
take anybody on television that's an actress or an actor,
Mm-hmm.
even somebody that's a politician, they're going to look at you and say you're crazy,
Mm-hmm.
or that you're mad, or you're insane. You really need medication. You need to talk therapy, something.
Yeah, you need Jesus.
Me,
Yeah.
I was even like, well, I'm experiencing too much here. I've seen too much. I've had too many experiences. I even went and saw. Are you familiar with who Queensryche is?
Queensryche?
Queensryche.
Well, the band, but not
Yeah.
that.
Okay. The
Go
band
on.
Queensryche.
Yeah,
Well, I'm going to tell you a little short story with this one.
go for it.
I thought I was losing my mind. I mean, so much had happened. The UFO had happened. A few other things we haven't even discussed yet
Mm-hmm.
occurred. I was in my middle 20s. I was probably around 24, 25 years old. And I worked at a Fortune 500 company in the pharmaceutical industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, the heads of the company came in and they gathered around and said, look, if you think that you're going mental, or if you have an emotional issue or something psychological is going on with you, we're willing to pay for you to go talk to somebody. Mm-hmm. And I said, great. And, I'll write the number down and I'll make an appointment. And I did, because right. I'd already been through so much. I was really good at my job. I was very good at my job. So I could have gotten, they said, go talk to us, like, go talk to a shrink. I said, what the hell, I'll do it. I've got some things, I have questions. I didn't know about what's schizophrenia. Am I losing my mind? Early stage Alzheimer's. I'm seeing way too much. I'm experiencing way too much stuff.
A lot of
it never occurred.
Information.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm getting flooded with all this information, but I need to know that I'm okay mentally. Right. Am I stable? Well, I lived in Atlanta at the time, and so the appointment was just outside of Atlanta. And I'm driving in my little car, and back in those days, I didn't have a CD player. I had a cassette player in the car, and I'm listening to Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime. It's a wonderful album. Okay, one of the best albums at the time. I didn't have many cassettes. I just had the minimal of what I could have in the car. I had a lot of records, but I didn't have enough money for a CD player. And CDs were just really coming into fruit. I mean, they were putting them in cars.
Right.
So I'm driving along and I'm listening to Operation Mindcrime. I'm listening to the title track, the song Operation Mindcrime. I'm listening to it, and and we're like in a traffic jam. 4 lanes of going one direction, and it's raining. I don't have air conditioning in my little car, so I'm got the radio turned wide open, and it's quiet. It's eerily quiet. Hundreds of people surrounded me, and I'm the only radio I can hear playing. My windows are down. I've got tunes up. I'm enjoying myself. I'm about to go talk to a shrink, and I'm trying to think about, what am I going to say to this shrink? What am I going to tell her? Okay, what am I going to say? And what questions do I have? Well, in the distance, I hear my song playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, what's going on? So I turn the radio down, the knob on my little thing, and I hear somebody coming up from behind me, playing the exact same song in exact sync with what my song is playing. So I turn it back up, kind of like a call response kind of thing. I'm like, turn it back down. I'm like, no, I'm not making this shit up. I'm not imagining this.
No, yeah. I'm with you.
I turn it down, I turn it up, I turn it down, and hurry up. And the guy's in a lane beside me, because I'm coming up on my exit, and he cruises right beside me. He's in a Jeep, and he has his windows down. Now, even if he had a CD player in his Jeep, and he very well may have,
right,
for him to be able to sync up exactly note for note with what I was playing in my car, it would have been impossible.
Do you think that you were being followed?
No, not at all. No.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is because you're going to see a shrink, right? You have a lot of questions you're asking.
Right.
You don't think you're being tailed or gaslighted or any of that sorts of things?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not in that time. In that time, somebody doing that kind of thing would have been just far too creepy to be acceptable or even thought of at that time.
It's just really heavy coincidence that would sync up like that.
Yeah. And then I started thinking about it when after it was over, Operation Mindcrime. It was like something, my higher guardian angel telling me, you're just wasting your time. You're meant to go through all of the stuff that you've been through
Right.
up until that point. That's kind of what it went.
Mm.
Now, I sat down, I talked to the lady for like an hour.
Mm.
Okay. She was really nice. She just listened, much like you do.
Mm.
Okay. I told her everything and I said, okay, here's what I need to know. She said, how can I help you? And I said, well, I need to know, am I losing my mind? Am I going insane? Am I on my way to a padded cell in a straitjacket?
Mm.
Am I okay? She said, I think our session is done now.
Mm.
I think we're done. No, you're not crazy. You're not going crazy. There's nothing wrong with you. I told her, I'd never heard voices. I had seen things, and other people had seen them as well.
Mm.
She said, there's nothing wrong with you. Okay. You're just a very, very strange man. And so if you'll do me a favor, forget my number, forget you were ever here, never call me, and never come back.
Something either spooked her from those conversations from prior people,
Yeah,
or influenced by government, or both. It takes me back to the Fourth Kind movie. That is very interesting. I must say. After that, after she told you that, what did you say?
I said, okay. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't losing my mind. And I walked away and I was thinking about the events that happened that very night, in the very 20 minutes before I got to her door. Operation Mindcrime.
Hmm.
Uh, if you listen to the album enough, and at the time it was one of my favorite albums.
I'm gonna have to listen to it, by the way. I'm gonna have to. Um,
It goes into basically, it's exactly highly suggested for you to listen to it so that you'll get a better concept of what the whole album in itself was about, a guy being controlled by higher forces, invisible, not invisible forces, but government agents and stuff like that. And then trying and basically questioning his own sanity. Am I losing my fucking mind? That's what it felt to me at the time. I mean, that's what I was thinking. I'm
well,
like,
it's interesting because the lead singer, I won't forget, on stage played a song, "Eyes of a Stranger," right from Queensryche, and he was
yeah,
in a straitjacket.
exactly. That's off of the album,
Yeah.
and that's what you
Wow.
get. And that's what I was trying to figure. Am I, am I, am I clear in present danger, or am I just ahead of the curve, far ahead of the curve than most people would ever want?
Yeah, and that could be both a blessing and a curse with that experience and with that knowledge. So,
Yeah, because up until now, I haven't had anybody I can really talk to about this stuff.
right.
I've had friends, okay,
Yeah.
and friends with me, they have experiences when they're around me long enough. Hang around me long enough, you'll have your own experience.
You
It's
know
like,
what? Yeah. Go ahead. Go what you're saying. It's like what?
yep, it's just like, if you're around me,
Hmm.
this stuff is drawn to me like a magnet.
Right.
I'm going through this experience for some higher purpose than just a human being seeing a bunch of weird, strange shit. Okay, it's more than that.
Yeah.
It's something. There's something more to it.
Yeah.
I'm
I,
only recently, in like the last 5 or 6 years, decided that, hey, maybe I should tell people about this. Maybe I should write a book. Maybe I should put it out there that I am not the only. You're not the only one having these experiences.
right.
There are other people out there too. And I'm one of those people.
And
I'm one
you
of those people that's just drawn to.
and you know what, too? There's more people like you out there than you realize. They just don't talk about it. And this is why the platform is there. For example, when I first met John, we met at a burger restaurant nearby, and he was sharing his experiences. I don't know if you listened to the episode with his alien abductions and so forth, but I won't forget when we're there. There's this woman who was staring right at me with a big smile, like big smile, bigger than usual. And we were just looking like, can we help you? She's like, oh, I'm just waiting for my husband. And she kept staring at me. And I'm just like, dude, what the hell? And he's like, dude, weird things happen to me all the time. And it
Yeah.
still does. And it still does. And there's no answer to it. I don't have an answer to it. I'm looking, that's why we're doing what we're doing. But it seems like there's a lot more people out here, not just in Washington, but a lot in Washington, but in other places in the country and the world that are having these experiences similar to yours. They're just not talking about it because of feeling crazy, feeling like they're losing their
Yeah.
mind, right?
Yeah.
And people need a healthy outlet to share these things where they feel like they're in a safe place, where they feel like they could be heard. Because it's not just about what they're seeing or what they're experiencing, it's about how they're feeling and how it's impacting their lives. Because it's a real thing to them, it's a real thing to you, right?
Right.
And it's important for that to get out there.
It is. It's vastly important because uh, when I was a kid, I was told never to talk about any of this stuff, and I didn't. And I found out why you didn't, because you'd get a reputation.
Yeah.
You get a reputation where you weren't trustworthy, and some people were harmed because they were viewed as being dangerous.
Hmm.
They see things that other people don't see, or uh, they're dangerous because of who they are and what they do and how they're living their lives. And it became, for me, being in a very Christian household, it was always pray about it, pray about it,
Hmm.
talk to God about it. Okay, God never answered, God never said anything, but other things did. Other things
Hmm.
answered. Other things came in and said, "I'm here. What are you gonna do about it?" And it wasn't a threat, nothing like that.
Hmm.
But it was very real. Wasn't just real for me. It was real for my parents. A lot of this stuff was.
Interesting. Wow.
Okay. I
Wow.
mean, I want to kind of tell you this one. It
Sure.
freaked, it freaked my dad out. It was 1977. In Search Of was a great program. It came on Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, somewhere in there. Leonard Nimoy hosted it. And he did one on pyramids, since we talked about pyramid system a moment ago.
Right.
And we were watching this, and they were talking about how pyramid power could sharpen razor blades. A guy was he had a practice in California. He had a pyramid in his office that was made out of aluminum, and he could operate on people, and they wouldn't need anesthesia or any kind of painkillers in their jaw, and they would be perfectly fine. They wouldn't feel the pain.
Right.
And I'm like, that's interesting. Okay, well then they go into pyramids in Egypt and all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, when the show had ended, I said, well, I'm going to make my own little pyramid. I've got some glue, I've got some cardboard. I'm going to carve out a little pyramid. So I go off into my bedroom. I cut out a little pyramid and I bring it out to him. And I look what I made. Isn't this cool? A pyramid.
Yeah.
My dad was also into construction. He was a no nonsense kind of guy, but he was also into construction. So I'm kind of like trying to get, I'm going to impress my dad by what I can build something.
Right.
And it was only a small pyramid, probably about 2 or 3 inches tall, but it was a pyramid. And I hold it out to him. And when I held it out to him, my left hand, it arced. Chris, it arced with a blue light.
Wow.
Okay. It shot. It wasn't just the blue light that came kind of like an orb around it. It shocked my hand. I dropped it on the table and I stepped back and it stung like an electrical shock.
Right.
That was like the first time I'd ever felt electricity in my life.
Wow.
My eyes got, I'm like, I didn't swear at the time. I didn't know any swear words, but in my head, I said, fuck. You know what I'm saying? He died laughing. He howled. And I'd never seen the man laugh so hard in my life. He laughed for a good 3 minutes, nonstop. Just sat there in his evening chair, his lounge chair, and just laughed. Wow. When he finally caught his breath, I said, what are you laughing about? This is incredible. And he said, that'll teach you never to mess with something you don't understand.
Sounds like something your dad knows a lot more about and why he was so quiet about a lot of things.
Exactly.
And it could be a generational thing that you don't know about. We have no idea.
No, I mean, he was the youngest of 13. He had one baby sister. She'd have been number 14, but she died basically right after she was born, like the next day or so.
Wow.
But So as far as that goes, there's no way I'll ever know. If it,
Wow.
but my grandmother knew a lot of stuff because she was kind of a country woman
Right.
from the old South. She was born in like 1897 or something. So she had to know stuff because she had 13 kids.
Right.
She had to know first aid and stuff like that. How to stop bleeding by just saying some words over it, that sort of thing.
Interesting. Interesting. All right. Here's what we're gonna do. We're about an hour and 8 minutes into it. Um, we're gonna do another. I'm assuming you have a lot more to say, right?
It just depends on how much we want to talk.
We could talk for a lot about things. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna stop here. We'll do a part three. We could do it a week from today, like we're doing here. Hopefully, get knock on wood. There is no hurricane that's coming around. And what I want you to do, Skratch, is to reminisce like you did before this podcast, something that we could have missed or you thought that you missed, but also to continue on with your experiences throughout your life, where you're at today, in regards to both the UFO, paranormal, whatever we want to call it, where you're just experiences in general. Let's definitely capture those moments to make sure that I'm not missing anything that you want to share. If that's okay with you.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
Perfect. All
Well,
right.
we haven't touched, but just a sliver of all the weird, weird world that I've experienced.
All right. Oh, and I want you to make note of that when we do the next session.
Okay.
Before you get off, let me we'll talk afterwards. So everybody, this has been Skratch Buer today, part two. We're gonna do a part three. And again, how you can listen and subscribe to this wonderful episode, also many episodes, bound to truth34@gmail.com to ask questions, concerns, comments. Also on Spotify, Apple Audio, as well as was it called? Because Podbean? No, Podbean, yes, and Buzzsprouts. You can definitely search for Bound Truth 34. And then we're also on Facebook and Twitter. And other than that, guys, a lot more questions than answers, and I wouldn't have it any other freaking way. This is great. I love it. This is something I live for. This is something that Skratch lives for. Let's do it. We're gonna talk some more. Other than that, everybody, have a great night and God bless. See you on the other side.